It's time to bust out the good old Romping Club, tighten the loincloth, and taking off your shirt. Because after today's discussion on the new Rhinar Armory Deck and possible upgrades, you'll either join us fellow brutes in loving to hate yourself, or bash your brains against the wall. Or you can just simply beat your chest like a madman or a champ and intimidate the opponent as best you can. We're here to answer two questions. Or should I be like the brute way? Two questions. What to do about the Rhinar Armory deck and what you could do to make it better. But first, I'm Will.
I'm Evan.
And Evan, as we always do, before we actually jump into the topic, what did we learn since last week?
Well, I sure learned quite a lot since last week, all right? I was hanging out with my good buddy Jeremy, been on the podcast a couple times,
Uh-huh.
and he was just on his hands and knees, tears rolling down his eyes, begging me. He was like, "Evan, I love Kadachi Fi. Please help me make Kadachi Fi work." And I begrudgingly I said, "Yeah, okay." So I built Kadachi Fi. I brought it to our armory, okay? And I ended up going the 3-0. And all I
Really?
have to say, yeah, I 3-0'd. All I gotta say is
What?
it was one of the worst decks I've ever played. It was
Oh.
so terrible. Oh, but don't tell Jeremy that I said that.
That's
Be heartbroken.
Yeah, I thought you were actually not doing too hot on the Kadashi 5 because when I walked by, like all I heard about was you just talking mad shit about this deck. I was like, oh, Kadashi 5, that's
Oh, it's
cute.
terrible. I was literally just like I had to play out of my mind in order to just
Yeah.
like make up for how bad it was.
That does seem to me kind of like what that like I think that's a player skill set for you to go 3-0 in decks over power that brought that in.
Yep. So,
Wow.
that's for you, Jeremy. Love you, buddy. And if you ever want to play Kodachi Fi, you know who to call.
So that's fantastic though, man. Good job. I've been
You did
deep
equally as well, right?
Dude, I wish. So, look, I don't want to get into too many of the spoilers with the Rhino Armory deck, but I can understand our fellow Uzuri lovers who really love the hero, want it to work, and they have new tools, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to fix everything. This is going to be great." So and I decided to get ready for the cast, doing it for the content. I would go ahead and play beat chess Reiner. Not aggro Reiner, not any other variations of Reiner, but just different variations of this deck. Now, I'm going to when we talk about the armory deck, go into the details of what I learned since last week a little bit more deeper. But I guess the highlights from the multiple games I played is the armory deck can get our opponents down to single digit life fairly easy, very controlled, very methodical. I think in a skilled player's hands that this deck could actually cross the finish line. It's just I find myself asking, why am I playing this version of the deck? But we'll get into that a little bit more. Ultimately, the biggest win I had since last week is, and I was trying to find it just so we could show people what I meant. But there's a new card that came out from our fellow people that went to Philadelphia Worlds, and that's the Rhinar Golf and Romping Club set. Do you remember this, Evan?
Oh, I sure do.
Okay. Beautiful card, right? So as I'm playing this, and I was swinging my opponent, my romping club at Carson, who's on Verdance, I kept on shouting four as it's a four attack club going across to my opponent, and then I just made the connection. It's a golf club. How freaking brilliant is that? And so once they shared this, and they're like, "Oh, is that something you heard from LSS?" I was like, "No, I think that's LSS doing LSS things and just letting the players discover this little niche interaction on their own." I was like, it's so freaking thematic. Anyways, that was the highlight of my week, just to let you know. Yeah, so, as always, timestamps down below. This cast won't be too long. We're missing our third and fourth members, but we do have our loyal mascot always taking a nap right there. So, Evan, I gotta ask you, man.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts on the Rhinar Armory deck. you used to play Runner back in the day, before you decided to not be a masochist anymore.
I mean,
And
granted, I played it in Blitz
okay,
where
okay.
it's it was good, but yeah, I guess brief
Well,
rundown on Rhinar before the Armory deck. He was kind of like not in a great spot.
no.
He has like this interesting niche of being one of the few heroes that can sort of push through damage,
Hmm.
um, like a lot of damage with like no way of it being interacted with, right? With his intimidate ability, but for the most part, people thought that was not enough and
Hmm.
that the KO was better. So Rhinar needed some help. It was very exciting to see him get an armory deck, and
So
this is the worst armory deck we've ever seen.
I gotta be honest with you, Evan. Like, I want the beat chest mechanic to work because it is so thematic and it so works so well. In fact, this is the only time I've read an LSS article that I walked away from the article and the developer in that article being more angrier, like a goddamn brute, right? Because of the crap I read in that article. Do you know what I'm talking about specifically about the theory card that they're like, oh, we don't want to print it because it's too much like X, but it would have fixed everything. Not everything. That's me being like, exaggerating. But did you read this article?
I have not read it, but
Okay, so I guess let's jump into the Armory deck, kind of cover the highlights of the new cards, and then we'll kind of wrap it up, and then we'll show you variations of our
yeah,
take. I do want to say this is the worst Armory deck that they've put out there, and that's compared to the other decks like Max or even Bolton, which Bolton's Armory deck was pretty good because he got all this new equipment. It's just a bad hero at
yep.
that time. The Max deck was something different, and they tried to do something different. It just didn't work, right? And so I would say Max is probably the worst deck. Can we agree with that, Evan? Well, now we have a new one.
Oh, one sec. I think you cut out for a bit.
Okay, let me see if I'm back. Let me check my audio here. Yep, okay. Am I back now?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. So I always like to say you have to know a 1 to know a 10. So Max used to be the 1. It used to be the foundation of how we measured all the other armory decks. Well, congratulations, Rhinar. You are now our number 1.
Now, okay, I will give the Rhinar Armory deck this. I think it's better than the Max Armory deck, but and this is something that we'll see later on. I would give the Max Armory deck like the boost because it, pun intended,
Oh,
has the card Heist in it, which was at the time and still is a really expensive card.
yep.
So like value wise, the Max Armory deck wasn't great, but it was better than the Rhinar Armory deck. And so I
Yes.
would put it over the Rhinar Armory deck just on reprint value alone, even though I think the
Yes.
Rhinar Armory deck is slightly better than the Max when it
Okay.
comes to playability. But they're both
Play.
at the bottom.
Yes.
Like they're down here. Every other Armory deck is like, yeah, up here.
So, okay, I know a lot of our listeners that are into the Rhino Armor deck wants to hear something great about this deck. I'll start it like this. Before we actually talk about the Rhino Armor deck, if you're into Rhino, if you're interested into this specific hero, this deck is worth picking up. 100%. If you are interested in any other brew and it's not Rhinar, do not pick up this deck because you do not need to pick up this deck. Altogether, these cards are probably worth 20 bucks, maybe. And yes, there are some cards in here that aren't found anywhere else, but they're still strong enough cards other places that you can use in not getting these. And they usually have a habit of reprinting these in gem packs later. So you have to ask yourself if you are interested in Rhino, you have to pick up this deck for really just one specific printing of a card. Alpha Rampage. It's the new blue 6, blocks for 0. If it's discarded because of beat chest mechanic, you made a make a mic token. It's a 3 cast. It's a blue pitch, though. It's a blue pitch 6. It's a Rhinar specialization. This is, you would spend $49.99 for 3 Alpha Rampages.
And
That's
the
what this
thing
deck is
is,
giving
like,
you.
I feel like Alpha Ramp, you could probably buy it on the secondary market for way cheaper than that,
Maybe.
right?
Maybe. I don't think
Especially
people are
because
going
it's
to
a
sell it.
specialization,
Yeah.
right?
If they print it in a gem pack, you might be able to pick it up. But if people that are picking this deck up, they're not selling the only playset. They're not going to break their playset off Rampage. So maybe you could find it elsewhere. But I don't see it being on the secondary market like that. But let's check TCG player then. I am curious now. But
But
let's go
yeah,
and
how about we get into the deck, maybe look at
sure.
all the new cards. Maybe bring up the card you just mentioned first real quick.
Okay. We'll bring up that card, and then I do want to talk about Rhinar's hero ability because I want to clear up something that I
Yeah,
think
that's
about a
fine.
little bit differently. But this is Alpha, not Rampage, Alpha Instinct. Sorry. I'll let you guys bask in the glory of this card. It's a good card, right? And
Yeah,
we've
we'll
been
talk
saying
about
for
it more in
years,
a sec,
we've been
but
saying for years that Rhinar needs another blue six, and this does help a lot more than people would think. Interested in Rhinar? The deck's worth picking up just for this card alone. Not interested in Rhinar? Don't pick up the deck, right? Unless you want to, because they have a habit of growing up in value later on. You just don't know what LSS tends to do with these prints. But let's go ahead and start with the Rhinar hero ability, and then we're going to not really cover all the cards in this deck. There's no need to. There's a lot of reprints from heavy hitters, some from Super Slam, and we'll cover the new cards, especially the ones that involve the beat chest. We'll talk about the beat chest. But Reinhardt's hero ability, very simple. Whenever you discard a card with 6 or more power during your action phase, Intimidate. So it's really on your turn. You discard a 6, you can Intimidate. It doesn't have to be a random discard. So it works synergistically with the beat chest mechanic. I
yeah,
like it.
real quick, by the way, Intimidate, for those of you who don't know, it's just you randomly banish a card from your opponent's hand, and at the end of turn, they get it back into their hand, right?
Yeah.
So, in essence, it's saying, for Rhinar specifically, it's saying they cannot block with that card, right?
hmm And I just realized, Evan, this is going to drive me crazy now that your box here is lower than mine, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Hey guys, moving down right there. Boom. All right. No one is above another on this cast.
Can you
Anyways,
move my box a little higher?
son of a bitch. So this is the thing. If you're interested in Reinhardt, a lot of people say, "Oh, Reinhardt doesn't have a hero ability because they get the cards back at the end of the turn." I tend to disagree because Reinhardt has a good hero ability where it could really be evasive damage when you need to close out the game, so you can save it for that one big power turn. So his reach potential is incredibly high toward the end of the game when people tend to be blocking or defending a lot more. And at the beginning of the game, if you go and have your cards set up, depending on the variation of the deck you use, it pretty much says some of the time your opponent will start at less life than their normal printed value down there on the bottom right corner. Because in essence, if you go first and you have a decent hand, which is the majority of the time, if Reiner goes first, then you could probably knock them down 5 to 8 points of value in life. So that means your opponent is starting at 32 health, which is Prism health. It's not bad if you think about that hero ability like that. Now, for the rest of the game, might not do as much as people want, but it can still really put your opponent in awkward situations, especially if they're math driven. So I like this hero ability because it does mess with your opponent, and I love messing with your opponent. So, or I love messing with the opponent.
Said his piece. I can talk about how the Rhinar hero ability is not good.
I don't know, man. I think it's a lot better than
I'm
people give it
kidding.
credit for.
It's
Okay.
better than it seems. Keep in mind, for instance, like the intimidates are random.
Yeah.
So if there's a card they wanted to block with, like let's say like a sink below, they can't block with it anymore,
Yeah.
right? So it does have some use cases that unfortunately like the issue is compared to like a hero like KO,
Yeah.
where whenever he discards, he gets a might token and he gets a second ability that makes all his blues sixes.
Yeah.
Um KO is seen as just kind of the better brute just because he's more consistent and his value is
hmm
more face up, right?
And I actually think that Kale is probably higher floor, lower ceiling, but I do think Rhinar is kind of a lower floor, higher ceiling because the potential, if you know how to engage with Rhinar, you could definitely. He does things that KO can't do. KO is
I
the
would agree with
consistent
that,
brute.
yeah.
Let's talk about the equipment real quick. Echo Cast, Goliath Gauntlet, Torque of Vim, and Trampling Trackers. We kind of briefly mentioned this. I know other armory decks have. So Goliath Gauntlet is a reprint. It's a fancy reprint. Looks hard. It's a generic equipment. It's great for Silver Age if you don't have it. So pick up this deck for the Silver Age.
Real
LSS will.
quick, it's not great in Silver Age because it's banned.
Oh, want.
It
Thank
looks
you,
pretty
Evan.
nice though. So
It does look good. Okay, so Echo Cask. This is rare. This is not banned in Silver Age. It is whenever you beat chess, you may pay a resource to destroy this. If you do, draw a card. It's battle worn one, so you can block with it. So at least has 1 point value. If you have the free resource and you beat chess, you can draw a card at the end. So you have to, let's cover the beat chest mechanic real quick before we go further. Apologies. Beat chest, as an additional cost to play this, you may discard a card with 6 or more power. Note, you only have to pay this cost once, and it fulfills all beat chest triggers within that turn. Right? So the first time you beat chest, it will cover the second card's beat chest ability, etc. Right?
Yeah. And you don't have to beat chess. Like
Yeah, it's
the
optional.
card has like an ability and then like an extra ability if you do the beat chest.
Mhm.
So if we go back to the helm, yeah. So whenever you do the beat chest, and beat chest, I guess we should mention, is historically a pretty terrible mechanic, just because like going down a card,
Deliberately.
like deliberately is bad, right? Like you need to pitch a card to play most of these beat chest
Mhm.
cards, and then you need to have another card to discard, right?
Mm.
So it's a 3 card hand in order to beat chess, and every beat chess card that we're going to see is not worth keeping 3 cards up for it.
So,
Um,
Evan, based off that thought process, how
yeah.
much is the average value of a card in Flesh and Blood? What do we
I think
rate it
a
as?
random card I would rank as 3 value.
So you're saying in order for the beat chest mechanic to work, because you have to discard the beat chest mechanic, you have to pitch to play that card, and the card itself, that total value, those 3 cards you use, have to exceed 9 points of value in order for you to really consider it being good, regardless if it's an on hit or anything else? Is that what I'm hearing?
9 points of value, no, because on offense, I would expect 3 cards to be 10 points of value, right? A good
100%.
good example is the card Thunderquake, which is
Uh-huh.
literally 6 resources for 10 damage.
Yep.
So you pitch 2 blues, you'd swing for 10, right?
Yeah, and that's on rate, right?
Yes, that is on rate. That is not a good rate, that is on rate.
Yeah, yeah. So, yes, and I think we get to the crux of the issue with the beat chest mechanic as this armory deck stands. Now, we're going to cover this more for our fellow listeners. Put your comments down below. We've been trying to work on this for a long time. Well, I have for at least the last 2 weeks, and ever since it's been coming out and Spoilers has been here. I played the most games on this deck than I have ever played with any other deck. Even the decks that where I top aided two Pro Quest, I have not put enough. I have not put as much practice. Probably 25% of the practice in those decks compared to the 20 plus games I put into this deck. Right. So then we got, Romping Club, right? You usually have the variations of Romping Club or Mandible Claws. Aggro Rhinar plays Mandible Claws because it synergizes really well with something called Blood or Bellow for our new Rhinar players. If you're interested in Rhinar, that's something you'll probably look at later. But the Romping Club for Beat Chest does in fact work. There's actually 2 variations of the Beat Chest you can lean into. So Romping Club, I'm glad they included this, but this is also like chaff. So,
I
oh
mean, Romping Club is included just because it's Reinhar's signature weapon,
yeah,
but
it
I'm gonna be
is.
real, I think every single no matter what, if you're control or, like, aggro Reinar, I think you
Yeah.
want Claw,
Yeah, so you're
like, no matter
thinking
what.
I tried the beat chest with the claw and it is awkward to say the least. So Torque of Vim, whenever you beat chest, you may destroy this. If you do, the next brute attack action card you play this turn costs 2 resources less to play. It's battle worn 1. Love the battle worn keyword. It is a majestic.
So, now we get to some of the issues. Well, okay, let's because we haven't really been reviewing the new cards, so
Yeah,
how about we hop back to the headpiece real quick?
sure, sure.
Because I remember the first time I read this, I thought, "Oh, that's really good."
Yeah.
And then I reread it and I noticed that you have to pay a resource, which I missed before. And I
Mm,
said, "Oh, okay." Honestly, I think if this card was like 2 block Guardwell and then you didn't have to pay to draw a card, like I think this would be good. I don't think it makes Beat Chess good, but I think it makes Beat Chess like way better.
yeah. It does pair well with Garland and Spring. By the way, that's my abs on the picture. But I don't know, man. I don't know if it's still good though.
No, the issue with this card is just like generic headpieces are just so strong,
Yeah.
and this card blocking for 1 is weak. The effect is almost good, but
Hmm.
having to pay a resource is pretty weak. It is a rare, so maybe it has some legs in Silver Age
Yeah.
Rhinar, but the issue is I don't like we're saying Beat Chest is bad in CC. I think Beat Chest is also bad in Silver Age.
Yeah.
So
I
probably
mean,
not.
it doesn't matter if you take a pile of shit and paint it silver, it's still going to be a pile of shit just with silver paint on it, right?
Very
So,
eloquently put, Will.
well, I'm speaking like a
Um,
goddamn group, man. I love this deck. It's so frustratingly fun. Anyways,
Alright. And then now I get to bitch about the chess piece. And I think I alluded to this earlier
yep.
that the Max Armory deck I like better than this deck because it has better reprints.
Hmm.
I just assumed that they would reprint Savage Sash here,
That would, oh my gosh, that
and
would
I
have been so
don't
much
know
better.
why they didn't because they basically do the same thing, but
Mm,
Savage Sash does it better because Savage Sash also gives resources. There are some like edge cases where I think Torque of Vim is better,
hmm.
but I think on average you want like Savage Sash, and that's kind of a pricey card too.
Yeah.
So I was like,
To-
"Oh, okay, it's perfect," and they just didn't do it.
So now here's my issue with Torque of Him. At the same level of rarity, majestics versus rares, right? Savage Sash is a majestic. You're telling me Torque of M is now it does in essence, like you said, almost the same thing. If you play Savage Sash, you might get 2 resources off your attacks over the next few cards, right? Possibly 3, so that's the high end. Torque of M, you're only 2, so it's pretty much when you beat chest with the first card, you play the second card for free. So it's one
Yeah, and
pitch,
it
boom,
blocks worse too. So
it does block worse. So at a majestic level, it's pretty much the worst card just because of block value alone. I can almost forgive that the context of the text itself is different, but if that's the case, why not just get Savage here? At least other brews could get value and they could actually not stop farming for it and get this deck specifically. It might tank the price of a Savage Sash, but at least in the gem pack, they're only $30 anyways. Just give it to them. Though, hell, look at Pleiades. They got so much good value in that deck. We're not bitching about the Armory deck. It still got to play, guys. Stick with us. We are not negative, or we're not kicking this Rhinar puppy when it's down.
oh,
It
I
just
am.
look. I'm so passionate about Rhinar. Like everyone here knows, I love Rhinar. It's my hero, right?
Yep.
It's the hero I started on. Anyways, Torque of Him, it does have. If you don't have Savage Dash, you don't have any of the other chess pieces that would make your brute deck better. Torque of Vim is a perfectly good option, and that's what I can say about it. I wish it was either lower print rarity, so you play it in Silver Age, sure, but it might be too strong. Do I wish it was a higher battle worn value? Even better, you know. But it is battle worn one where there's some potential to block and just keep it there because it does synergize well with a lot of the beat chess cards, the new ones in this deck. Trampling trackers. All right, you got your wish, Evan. This is majestic. It is temper 2, so 3 life. And whenever you beat chess, you may destroy this. If you do, create an agility token.
What's really funny about this card is okay, so I'm gonna be nice for a second. I like,
Oh,
Savage Sash, or not Savage Sash, Scabskin
yep,
Leathers, it blocks 2 and then it blocks 1, and that's pretty good at blocking like a boots that blocks 3.
yeah,
If you don't have Scabskins, this also blocks 3. So
yes,
it's a pretty good replacement, like budget replacement.
yep.
That being said, I legitimately think the deck would much rather have beaten trackers, which is a rare card.
The issue with the beaten trackers is you'd have to put some random discard in there because it only gets the action point on random discards. So I can
Oh, does
see
it now?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I can see why they didn't do that. It's the
All
same reason
right.
why
Well,
they
never
didn't put
mind
the Blood
then.
Rush spell in. But for your point, Evan, I do think the trampling trackers hits what you need to hit. The way I connotate this is if you're a junker that likes to roll dice and you don't trust yourself to do the right thing when the thing's in front of you, like Scabskin Leathers, the trampling trackers might get your ass out of trouble.
The issue
Right?
is agility tokens are not like
Yeah.
that great is the problem because you might
Yes.
be trying to set up a big turn with an agility token, but like if your opponent has disruption, for instance, or just stops your turn in its track,
Yeah.
then yeah, you just destroyed your boots for literally no reason. So
You know, here's a hot take, and this is for our listeners too. These boots for Reiner, the issue is it says whenever you beat chest, and I hate that part. Because if it said whenever you throw an attack or whenever you hit your opponent, you may choose, right? It'd be different. They locked this into the beat chest mechanic, which I hate. Because this would have been a very good alternative to Scabskin Leathers if it was anything but beat chest tied to it. Right? I don't know how they would work. Anytime you discard a 6, you may have a choice of destroying this to create an agility token. That would be a bad, almost at parity with Scabskin Leathers, because then you don't have to force roll. You could get the agility and set up for next turn, and that is so much stronger than what they gave here. But this is not a what if cast. This is a now it's tied to beat chest. You have to play it on the beat chest. It's a good alternative if you don't have Scabskin Leathers, but it's only good in that case, or it's a 3 block, which is at the most what Scabskin Leathers should be, anyways. Unless
Yep.
you listened to our cast previously, then you know that for me, it's just having a fun time and not there for a long time.
Yeah,
Okay.
so to recap, all the equipment and weapons should be replaced,
Yeah. It's
which I
like,
don't think I've ever seen before. It's
here,
pretty terrible.
here's the thing, right? So it's like Temu got their hands on constructing this goddamn deck and said I could do it better, and then it came out with this crap. Like the trampling trackers is Temu variation of Scapsing and Letters. This the whole
Yep.
equipment suite's like that. Will it see play later? Maybe, but we just don't know. As of right now, it's not fitting in, and this is one of the first things you'll upgrade. And I'll show you the upgrades. We're going to cover the armory deck first, and my complaints with it, and then some of the new cards. Like I said, Bear Destruction is the first new beat chest card. When this attacks, if you beat chest this turn and you don't control chest equipment, this gets go again. The next brute attack action card you play gets +2 power. This is 6 power. It's a 3 block. It is a majestic. It's 2 costs, which I like. Evan, you want to give your thoughts first?
Why did the +2 have to be for an attack action?
So the original card was give your brute attacks this turn +2, and they decided that was too much like Scabskin, that was too much like Blood Rush Bellow, and decided to go against that.
That would
I-
have been good. That would have been
If
extremely playable, yeah.
if it just said give your next brute attack cards, or give your next brute attack +2, so much better. It would work with what they gave you here, which is Romping Club. Now you're stuck with a minimum of a 4 card hand to get this crap off, right? Anyways,
And the
let's.
problem is, like, you're putting forth that much, alright? Like, you're putting forth so much, like, an entire 4-card hand in
Yes.
order to get this to be a 2 for 8,
Yes.
and Rhinar has access to Swing Big and Show of Strength, which are just 2 for 8s on their own.
Yes.
So this is not good.
But even if we like, let's do the math, right, at the end and see why this is an issue, right? But if this went to the Romping Club, I don't even care if it said, and then give your Romping Club +2 power. I would have been happy with that, man. Because then your Romping Club's at least swinging for 7. Anyways, this is a good card in the beat chest deck if you're playing beat chest mechanics purely. And any other variations, this is the first. This is coming out if you're playing, But we're just talking about the beat chest Rhino or Bear Swing, 3 power beat chest can. When this attacks, if you beat in chest this turn and you don't control chest equipment, this gets +2. 7 power baseline, 3 defense. Evan, your thoughts, please. I'm
I
about to
mean,
have a
I
heart attack
mentioned
here.
it before, right? Like, a good rule of thumb is 3 cards for 10 value. This is 3 cards for 9 value with an Intimidate, and I'm gonna be real, 1 Intimidate is like 0 value, right?
So I would say
Like, Intimidate
intimidate.
is at its best when you're doing multiple. Like,
Yeah,
if you do, like, 3 Intimidates, I'd be like, "Okay, that's a lot of value."
yeah.
1 Intimidate is nothing. So,
Intimidate itself is one of those mechanics that gets more value the more you use it in a turn.
yep.
But if by itself, I would rate it at maybe a 0.25, right? Maybe. It's not even half a point of value by itself. Now, two of them, anyways, you can play this theory game all day. Bear Swing, my biggest gripe with this card is that 3 cost, right? It's so anti-synergistic with a lot of going wide chains that really this is part of that one card four, or that this is one of those that part of that 4 cards. So you could get like, in theory, I guess what they're trying to do is you swing with the Bear Destruction for 6, and then you swing with this, right? So and this will come in for 11, right? That's Magical Christmas Land. 6 plus 11, 17 for 4 cards. That's above rate now, right? And you get one intimidate trigger off it. Is it worth it? No, because there's so many
Nah.
easier ways of doing it. All right, my first gripe, and let's take a side. This is actually my first official gripe with this deck. There's a couple things I had an issue with, right? The one is they only gave us one of on Massacre, Beast Within, and Show No Mercy, right? And in this style of deck, you really need three copies of Beast Within at minimum. Massacre itself is actually a really good tech, and I actually use it. I use one of in my KO deck as a power card because whenever you discard a card with six or more, this actually becomes a you know, 2 for 8 with an intimidate. Now we're talking 2 for 8 with intimidate. That's on par with what I want to use, right? You can also use this to beat
It's a
chess.
3.
It's a 3 cost, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
Massacre, okay. Massacre, all 3 of these Majestics are very good cards. I remember I watched they had a video showcasing the deck, and I saw all 3, and I said, "Oh, that's awesome, like, that's so good that that the Rhinar Armory deck gets these reprints," because I kind of assumed, like, Pleiades, they would be at, like, 2 ofs, maybe 3 ofs.
Yeah, yeah,
1 ofs is insane, right?
yeah.
To put into perspective, the Pleiades Armory deck had Terra Asunder, which was, like, a $20 card as a
hmm
2 of, and it had Spinal Crush, which was like a $15 card as a
Yeah,
2 of. And here you've got Massacre, which is like under a dollar. You've got Leave No Mercy, which is under a dollar.
yeah.
And you have Beast Within, which is like $10.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Beast
Damn.
Within has a bit of a price tag, but
Okay.
it's just kind of shocking that like the reprint value is nowhere near
Yeah,
what any of the other recent Armory decks have been doing. Because the recent Armory decks have been doing a pretty good job of like reprinting old cards.
yeah.
So yeah, that is a major disappointment.
Now, one thing about Massacre is it does synergize well if you're using a beat chest attack action card to do the intimidate on paying the cost. So now we're talking about synergy. If you have to use the beat chest mechanic here, you're actually with Reinhardt's ability force them to intimidate 2 cards, right? If you use Massacre as a trigger. One from Reinhardt, one from this ability because you're paying for an attack action cost. Now, if you did, and again, it has to line up good. So this 4 card 17 is actually with 2 intimidates on top. Okay, now we're talking about the higher power level. And this combo is actually fun to try to pull off. And you are lining up like puzzles pieces to get this off. But we'll talk about why this does work in some cases. But let's go on to Beast Within. This at least replaces itself. You do a beat chest for this, you feed beasts within to the beat chest. You get to draw a card, so it replaces itself at the cost of 1 life per. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
beat chest is such a terrible mechanic that like I'm so shocked that that Beast Within is only a one off because it feels like the most important card in this deck, right?
yeah. I would think that honestly, if they included, and again, this is theory, if they did a beast within red, I would be eating good, right? But like they won't do that. But they did it with the Pleiades. They gave you the red Bullet
Yeah,
Crush.
but those were for rares.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Beast Within, one trigger. It does replace itself at the cost of your life. You might take 2, 3 damage on average. Sometimes I took 6 or 8 in one turn because that's brute variance. And sometimes
Yep.
you just take 1 life, draw an attack. So it replaces itself pretty good.
And sometimes it loses you a gold foil bunker beard.
Yes, Evan. I still got that picture. I was like, I look at it sometimes like this happy mug. That's the most brute way to dying to our armory or to our Rhinar interested players out there is when you kill yourself with Beast Within. Welcome to the Brute Club. It's also when you lose the game because you got greedy and rolled a 1 on scab skins. Welcome to the club, the Romping Club, if you would. Let's talk about Show No Mercy, man. I'm okay with them only providing one. I could see one of this copy, maybe two. It is kind of clunky, but it's a block 3, so it's okay to have.
I like two of it. I think it's kind of like a good pop off turn card.
Yep.
Although I do agree with you. I think it's terrible on any other turn that's not your pop off turn.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and it's not bad. It's a 3 cost, 6 base attack, 3 block. When this attacks hero, intimidate them. So If the defending hero has no cards in hand, this gets +3. Now there are other runner specializations that are locked into you had to have them discard a card first, or you have to randomly discard another card plus other actions. So this one is probably the lowest hoop jumping to get this payoff. But you just put this in Arsenal, you let your things line up, and then you play it, right? So that's combo turn. It's a little awkward because of that 3 cost. They do give you some relative strongs, like strongest fives, but let's talk about the newer cards. They did give you yellow bear swing.
for some reason.
So, and then smell fear. Now, this is probably the highlight of the reason why you play a beat chest Rhinar deck. All right, it's a 0 cost. 0 cost beat chest. We've always asked for it. If you beat in chest this turn, intimidate. So, Evan, this is a card where it says, let me ask you how to make a Rhinar specialization without saying Rhinar specialization. Well, if you beat in just chest this turn, intimidate. Your next brute attack this turn gets, if you intimidated 2 or more times this turn, this gets +3, and this is yellow. Blue would be +2. It has natural go again. It is a rare. It's a 3 block. 0 cost again. That's very important. So with this, when you beat chest with Rhinar's ability, this already has intimidate. Using it the Rhinar, you've already fulfilled both requirements. Intimidate from Rhinar, intimidate from beat chest. And it gives your next attack, attack, attack. Not brute attack action, attack. Brute attack +3. I'm so pissed about the bear destruction. Still, I'm going to tell you the story about the article in a second. So that's the blue. That's the yellow one.
Yeah,
Oops.
smell fear is. I mean, it's okay. I think the blue one does make Rhinar lists,
Hmm.
and I think the yellow and blue one probably make like Sage because this is a rare, so you can play it in Sage.
Yep.
So like, I'm sure like there are like Sage lists that are full on just like what is it called barraging beatdown kind of
Yep.
just intimidate the crap out of you and like try to deal like 10 damage turn 0.
Yeah.
And I think Smell Fear is a great card in that. So yeah, no, it's okay. I think the blue one is good. I think the yellow one is not going to be played in like general Rhinar lists. I'll be real.
So
And I think
in the
if
beat
there was a
chest
red
runner
one,
decks,
you would be happier. So
so here's the thing, Evan. I'm going to cover this real quick since we're on this topic. If you're playing beat chest, runner beat chest mechanic, you're going to play the yellow, hands down. You might think about playing the barraging beatdown. If you go that route, you might want to consider taking out Beast Withins in that case. Because what will happen is you have a lot of non-attack actions in your deck, and you might lose 5 life to get one attack power card. Because if you think about it, if you let's say you do something crazy like red, yellow, and blue barraging beatdowns, we'll cover that in the blue just so people know, but they should know. And then you do yellow and blue smell fear. And let's say you just do the red and blue barraging beatdown, yellow smell fear, blue smell fear, you still have a lot of non-attack actions in your deck, right? So Beast Within might be one of those things where it might hurt you, right? So
yeah,
just
no,
consider
the
it.
barraging beatdown list I'm talking about for Sage, right?
Okay.
Because that sort of hyper intimidate kind of list is at its best in like a 20 health format.
Yep, yep, yep. I agree.
Um, it's not good in CC though.
Yes. Well, it's the 20 health format is the reason why, because their swing back turn, like lower life, you kill them. If you don't kill them, you put them on such a back foot that you can probably take the damage, block out the damage, just swing Romping Club, which I'll
I mean,
cover in a
that's
second.
why Reinar LL'd in Blitz
Yes.
because intimidate. Anyway,
So
yeah, moving on. We talked
Alpha
about
Instinct.
Alpha Instinct. Still
Now,
a great card. Yeah.
honorary mention, Clearing Bellow. Now, regardless of if you think this is a good card or not, you can only find this in the Classic Battles Dorinthia versus Rhinar deck. It was not found anywhere else, so they reprinted it here. If you missed out on this, you might want to pick it up to finish out your collection. It is a blue Intimidate with Go again, 3 block, brute action, so it's not locked behind anything. Is it great in any other brute deck? It's debatable. And then, of course, you got your classics. So that's the bare basics. Haha, get it? Bare basics. I should have worn my freaking shirt that had the pecs on it. Anyways, all right. So I know people think we're down on this deck, and we are. But
Yep.
there is potential here. At an armory level, it is a fun deck to play. I played it and it's so frustrating to line up your combo turns. And every game I played, I got my opponent down to single digits. Every game. The majority of those games I lost anyways. Your pop off turn is like on a normal aggro Rhinar, aggro KO, like a normal KO deck. Your power turns are anywhere from 20 to 30 points of damage to the Blood Rush Bellow. All right. And you get 3 of those a game on if you go long enough. The beat chest, you have to sacrifice so much for your pop off turn. You're looking at maybe 16 to 18 points of value. And the evasive damage on that might be 11 to 12 points, right? Is it worth it? I don't know. So pretty much you're saying to the unhidden spoken rule is if you do everything right, then your opponent really starts at 28 life. But the issue is you still lose because the deck itself is just not very good. Now, there is something to say. If you take this theme that they gave you here, what you do is you block out a lot. You set up your combo turns over the course of time. You play very much value and on rate. And then every turn you have to have at least a blue or yellow. And your game plan is block, swing Romping Club for 4. That way you have 13 points of value between the turn cycle, offense and defense, which is slightly above rate until you pop off. This is a bare minimum.
See,
Now,
the issue with that, Will, is that just sounds like bad Guardian.
so yes, there is there is value in this. Like, let's say if you're new player in general to Flesh and Blood, you looked at it, you like the aesthetics of, you know, orcs, green skinned guys, muscly guys, barbarian, savage, whatever. It will do something really good for you. It will teach
Shrek.
you Shrek. It's like this deck is like it's like an onion. It has multiple layers in it between levels of stinkiness. But the
Nope.
primary top layer doesn't work. Is this does teach you the basis of blocking and selectively attacking. Where I think most new brute players, and I speak from a place of experience and what I've seen other players do, is they think brutes are just purely I have club, I swing club. I have big attack, I swing big attack. But that is not how like some of the top players run like a Rhinar deck. I'll use our local Randall, for instance. Randall typically when Rhinar was popular back in the heyday and like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he didn't want run Blood Rush Bellow in his deck, right? Because he went value on it. So there's something to be said about playing around with that first and incrementally building up like okay, defend, attack, setup combo. If you think about, hey, you can learn that with any other deck, sure, and probably have a better time at it. But if you really stuck hard on Rhinar, stuck hard on Brute, then this deck will teach you not only how to lose gracefully, but how to actually like really play those numbers really well. Does that make sense, Evan? Like that's a positive to me because I wish
I
I
sure am glad that in this upgrade guide, you're spending so much time saying, "All right, guys, here's how we get our asses kicked."
well, that's Rhinar in general. If you don't kill yourself, right?
I'll say for, I guess we're moving on to sort of upgrading the deck,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. We
Because we
will
have
move
talked
to
about all
upgrade.
the new cards. Reinhardt traditionally, there are two different ways to play it. One sort of similar to the way that you mentioned, right?
Hmm.
Which is the sort of like play defensive until like you have like a pop off turn, and then use that to win the game. The other is aggro Reinhardt, right?
Hmm.
So those are the two main ways to do it. The third way that you've been trying is beat chess Reinhardt. Let's throw Beat Chest Reiner out the window. If you want to upgrade this deck, you're gonna have to choose one of those other two decks or one of
Okay.
those other two strategies. And luckily, there is a foundation here where you can sort of make that pivot. All right.
All right.
With that in mind, I guess for upgrades, I think the biggest one you need to make is get rid of that Romping Club, put in those claws, and put in that freaking Blood Rush Bellow because
Okay.
Blood Rush Bellow is the pop off turn card.
Here's the thing about this, right? And I see what you're saying, Evan. I wanted to keep it with the beat chest mechanic. I could bring up my true Rhinar deck. Should I do that? And so you can see what Evan's talking about.
You can if you want, because I do believe like if somebody is interested in Rhinar, that is the way that they should be playing it,
So
right?
I wanted to stay true to the beat chest mechanic and give them a foundation to play with. And so
We can do that if you want to. I will be mean to your deck and laugh
Of
at it.
course, of course, by all means. But okay, but let's cover my personal deck and why I call it this way. Then I think that's a good start. But let's talk about if you want to stick with beat chess because that's what you invested in, and you want to
Okay.
learn the foundations. And this is by all means not set in stone. There's actually two variations I'm playing with. What you're seeing here is more focused on attacks, setting up combos, going wide over the course of the game. There's another variations where you kind of like do like one strong attack, but you focus more on a club build Rhinar, where all those barraging beatdowns and beat chest mechanics that increase strength is to decrease your hand size and you swing club to 15, right? Which isn't bad, right? It's not great, but it's not bad. And that's a variation I didn't show here because I want to test it a few more times before I give it my stamp. So maybe in a few weeks, if I find a build that works, and if you guys didn't hear from me in a few weeks, that means I never found a variation that worked. All right, so back to the screen share. Again, Evan, this staying to the beat chest mechanic. Don't wrinkle your nose at me like you smell the stinky shit,
Bam
dude.
bam.
Listen, well, let's go ahead and cover this. All right, basic equipment suite is your basic equipment suite from the Brute package. Apex Bonebreaker, Savage Stash, Scabskin Leather, Scowling Flesh Flag. Scabskin Leathers, as Evan was saying earlier, it's a 3 block potential upside of rolling for that point. You do not roll scab. I know. I'm glad you're sitting down, Evan, because this is the stuff I learned in the PK season, deliberately trying to get better. You do not roll scab skins to try to do pure damage. You do scab skins if you're behind, and it will continue to make you lose the game to not roll scab skins. For instance, Gravy Bones, you need that ally off the board. If you don't clear the ally, you will 100% lose the game. You roll scab skins because you only have a 16.5% chance of losing outright, or 50% of the chance for your death to still be slow. So that's the concept. First thing is I kept Bear Destruction in because it's a 2 cost. I left Massacre in because it's a cost that you could feed to the beat chest mechanic, or in itself is a 2 card 8 with Intimidate, right? And it works really well with your no fear cards. Um, so you got your basic show of strengths, your swing bigs, as Evan was saying. These are the you know 2 card 8s, the ones that you don't have to work for. Evan, why do you play Bam Bam?
That's a good question. Why do you play Bam Bam?
Because it's an instant discard, right? And it's a 3 block and it pays for Romping Club at worst. That's why you play Bam Bam. And sometimes you'll have upside of destroying gold, but you don't play it for that. You're not playing this to trick your opponent. It's purely a yellow card that you have an instant discard that can make them 6 that costs no investment. So that's why you do it. Because sometimes you have a great attack like a swing big, all right, and you want to just make things awkward for them, right? So you discard this, pitch a card, play the swing big, right? It's not great value, but it's enough tricky value to kind of get evasive damage over. There is some play for something called predatory assault. We'll talk about it later. Beast Within, because Beast Within is still a feed to the beat chest. It replaces itself. I do have better of attacks in here. Sea Legs, because you love this when it's discarded, it creates a Gold Kiss Rum token. It's a safer way of having your next action card go again naturally, right? This also works well with if you're really behind and you want to do something funny. If you find a way to discard this, or they force you to discard a card on their turn, your opponent, you can actually use one of these action points to roll Scab Skin. Oh, you get a one who cares, you still got one action point left. So,
Just
anyways,
always finding ways to roll scabs, huh?
and sometimes you just put your club on the table and you roll scab skins because you have nothing else to do and you have 0 cards in your hand, and you end up rolling a 6 with 3 action points. And you look at your opponent and say, "The true intimidate is it's now your turn." So send packing because this is great arsenal hate. I love it because it gets around the D react where it banishes it quickly, and then if it deals any damage, so it's either forcing your opponent to block or they're losing an arsenal card. This is your pretty much your 3 cost yellow 6 attack power. When this attacks a hero, Banish card from the arsenal when the chain link resolves. If it didn't hit, return the banished card to its owner hand. So there is some side where if you don't get it, you feed that card back to their hand. I think I have it later, but the smell fears I kept in, I have Blue Barrage and Beatdown. Sand Sketch Plan is if you line it up well, this is a good arsenal card. It's also Blue Pitch, Block 3. It's a Rhinar specialization. Search your deck for a card, put it into your hand, discard a random card, then shuffle your deck. You do not like random discards, but sometimes if the amount of attacks you have in this, you will have a hand full of attacks. If this card has 6 or more, gain 2 action points. So you use this card, you gain 2 action points on the back end. You can roll scabs with it, or it's a way to just have 2 action points. So you get a chain extender where you can swing with a card, swing with a club. And your club, if you did the beat chest mechanic, is usually swinging for 5, which isn't bad. That's Arsenal card, like I said. Smashing Ground is if it has 6 or more, and this goes really well with Barraging Beatdowns or your Smell Fears. It's Arsenal hate again. Sigil Cycles is to filter your hand. Yeah, preferably you do a 6, but if you're not going to be able to use your hand and you're looking for a blue or something else, so you don't stagnate your turn, it also starts your turn off with an Intimidate. This is the only flex spot. It is a 2 block. Sigil Cycles is a 0 cost blue card. Go again. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. Whenever this leaves the arena, discard a card and then draw a card. And this has now been confirmed that there are aliens in the land of Wraith. Because it's crop circles. Anyways, I don't know. All right. So that's the foundations, 54 cards. Then we'll talk the inventory. And then I see Evans is brimming with such positive feedback from a deck. He's already excited to give so many good, constructive. And Evan, listen, I know we've been together for a very long time on this cast, almost a year now. I know what you're about to say is going to really not intimidate me and stim me my creativity, but really extol me and put me on this higher plateau. So,
Of course. Would you like, before we go over the sideboard, would you
sure,
like
sure.
me to mention the two changes to this deck that would completely destroy you, but also make this deck far better?
Yeah, let's say it. I'll do it right now.
The number one change is Romping Club for Mandible Claws, and the
And adding,
number two change is Yellow Smell Fear for Blood Rush Bellow.
well, and for those, try that. No, so Evan, that was actually a variation I did try before I went back to the pure, because that's a small change. I figured that's a change. Blood Rush Bellows aren't very expensive, but I don't know if this is the version or if I added it back in later. I played around with like running CNCs, but Sandpacking was just better. But there's also a card that they didn't include in the armory deck, which pisses me off.
Splatter Skull, yep. That card
Splatter School,
definitely should have been in the Armory deck.
or
A
just
big issue is, like, you really need disruption,
yeah,
especially if you're playing, like, a slower, like, setup game plan.
yes,
Splatter Skull is perfect. Other cards like Strongest Survive was in the deck. Send Packing probably should have been in the deck.
yeah.
But yeah,
Even with Splatter Skull, if they had another variation of a 3 cost 7 attack in red that does the same ability, it would have still been a better addition than anything else. I would have spent more power to have one more power. I don't mind that. It's only when you have 3 power for not a lot of payoff. But yes, Splatter Skull is definitely an additional add-in. And so now you're like swinging the beat chest mechanic to be more on hits, more let my opponent think they have to block this out or take the damage. And with Intimidate, that's making things a little more awkward. Sometimes they don't want to use a card that they left in their hand, where they prefer to use the card they intimidated. So, Evan already saying, for those astute listeners, you could take out the Yellow Smell Fears and add in the Blood Rush Bellows and switch it to Claws. Perfectly fine. So this is my sideboard. Uh, this is a working. I'll tell you the first flex spot is Strength Rules All, right? And you can switch it out for something else if you chose to. The
yeah, I
reason
would
why,
definitely recommend CNCs over Strength Rules All, to be honest,
so the only reason why I don't run CNCs is
because your
because,
buffs don't work on it. Yeah,
yeah. So again, keeping it with synergy, plus CNCs are expensive. I figured if they're doing this as a 2 cost brute attack for 6, 3 block, if it is an action card, sure. So it does something similar, but you're not locked into it. So yeah, if you want to change this out for a CNC, perfectly fine. Actually, you can change this out for anything with the relevant on hit. Even yellow strongest advice might work. Anything with the 3 block. The sink blows and shelters is if you really want to get the value and go long, and you know you're going to a long game. You can simply take out your beast withins and add shelters from the storm and sink blows in. You can play around with the ratios, of course. You go 5 or 6, whatever you want to do. And this is fatigue Rhinar, right? If that's the case, you're also taking out the sigil of cycles, right? And trying to, you could take out the sigil of cycles. That's optional. Barraging Beatdown is if they are a defensive deck and you really need the extra power. Crown of Providence is for those that you know is going to lose the arsenal. And like Gravy Bones with Conqueror of the High Seas, I actually run this in my KO deck, but you can run this against that. So at least you could get rid of your arsenal. Or sometimes you just need a 5 card hand to do a 5 card hand kind of thing to close out the game. So you would just use Crown of Providence to block, grab 5 cards, lose the arsenal regardless. It might just been a card you didn't need, and you have other puzzle pieces, and you're trying to get either that yellow or blue to finish it out, not that red power card that's in your arsenal. So you'd Crown of Providence to try to fish for a card. You're giving up pretty much a Scowling Flesh Bag, right? Which is one of the best helmets in the game. So you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do. You don't stop the combo turn or the power turns anyways. So put in Crown of Providence instead. Other than that, Skullhorn and your Null Rune boots, same thing. You can also do Null Rune gloves. That's probably the better option, actually, not the boots, because if you're against a wizard, then you don't really care about blocking their attacks with the gloves, right? Which is your Apex Bonebreaker. So you could probably get Null Ring gloves instead of boots. You know,
Yep. Wizard is one of the few matchups that you might roll scabs. So yeah.
yeah. A couple of honorary mentions and some things I was thinking about, and these are not really great cards. This is my spicy take. Not saying it's very good. I'm pointing, of course, to our listeners' Pursuit of Knowledge, which is, I'm going to give a shout out to Sinclair here. He speaks highly of this card, and it does work for him in his Ira deck. It's spicy tech. I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying it's spicy. It's a blue It's a blue card. It says blue pitch, 2 cost, 4 attack, 2 block. If Pursuit of Knowledge hits, your hero gains +1 intellect to end a turn. Uh, so at the end of your turn, you'll drop to 5 cards, right? Because all of a sudden you're smarter. And the reason why I included this is sometimes you have a chain extender, or you have the Rumkiss token. And so what you could do is they have no cards in your hand. You intimidate it out. Maybe you set up for the next turn. And so that's what this deck is doing. It's setting up for the next turn. Is it great? It's just something to think about. The other cards I was
Something to
thinking,
think about.
Predatory Assault, if you have discarded a card with 6 or more this turn, Predatory Assault against Dominate. This goes if it's kind of antithetical to your beat chest mechanic because you're trying to get all their cards out their hand. But you only have to do this once. It fits in with the Barraging Beatdown. It fits in with your No Fear, and it will have Intimidate if you just do it once. I find in certain things that this is a lot harder to get your. Notice I took out his specialization that does Show No Mercy. I took this out. I found this was a little awkward to get all 4 cards out of their hand. So that's a play. You can also do Alpha Rampage or Savage Beatdown, but again, kind of awkward to get. It's Magical Christmas Land to get all these lined up where I'm just trying to get for the more effective swing, lower lower hand sizes. Then of course Blamo was always a good thing. That's the beat chest variation of this deck. Evan, this is beat chest variation of the Rhinar beat chest deck armory
Yep.
upgrades. Thoughts?
Notice how few beat chess cards there are, and how I want to replace them all.
Dude, listen, it has enough beat chests, the Bear Destruction, Rawhide Rumble,
Yeah, Rawhide Rumble. I kind of also want to take out.
Smell Fear, both yellow and blue.
I want to take out the yellow smell fears very
I
badly
get it.
for Blood Rush Bellow. And as a
Yes.
matter of fact, I kind of want Bam Bam out because I think you'd rather have Agile wind up there.
So it depends. This is a beat chest variation. If our astute listeners looking at the Rhinar upgrade deck for their beat chest mechanics, these are things you can look at that will still in essence hold the core value of your beat chest mechanics, but provide you a little bit of a selective, do I block, do I attack? This is what I've been playing around with recently. This is again, I most of the beat chest decks you get them to that single digits. This has stronger pop off turns or stronger setup turns, but primarily you're defending, swinging Romping Club, and getting everything lined up. Arsenal targets are very important in this deck, so you need to know what arsenal target to do. Usually it's an aggressive red deck, but usually the arsenal target is your Rawhide Rumble, your Bear Distractions, or your Smell Fears to start enabling those cards. Sand Sketch Plan is another option for this, but that's like the variation of this. I guess you could say deck tech without it being deck tech. Links for all this will be below, and you guys could feel free to use it and tell me if you find something that worked. Are you with Evan? Are you saying like, hey man, this sounds good, but you got cards in there called Beat Chest that you should really take out? So let's talk about my main Rhinar deck, Aggro Rhinar. Notice why I have it, what his name is up here.
Yep.
All right.
And this is a deck that in the past has done, I'm not gonna say well, but for instance, I know some people like Eugene have brought this
Yeah.
to do and have done relatively well at like major events.
Yeah.
The issue with this is it runs cards like Wild Ride and Pulping, which
Hmm.
are fantastic cards. As a matter of fact, like Rhinar ironically uses those cards extremely well, right? Because
And
of the Intimidate
Evan,
when you get the discard.
let me interrupt you real quick and actually read you. Let's say a traditional Wild Ride card. It doesn't have
Yeah,
block,
sure.
but it's 2 cost. When this attacks, draw a card, then discard a random card. If a card with 6 or more powers discarded this way, this gets go again. At red, it's a 6 power, no block. Does he have the
Yeah,
0? You
so
cannot block
2
with
for
this.
6 go again Intimidate is like a really powerful card. The major issue is compared to KO, Rhinar actually is required to run cards that miss, right? You have to run a lot of blues, and Rhinar currently, well, in the past, Rhinar only had access to 3 blue sixes.
Yeah,
So
Ragnarok for
it
those
was,
listeners.
yeah, Wrecker Romp. And so it was seen as like, oh, it was risky. Sometimes like Eugene would go to a tournament and, he'd win the jackpot. He
Mm.
wouldn't discard his blue non sixes, and everybody would be happy.
So,
But most of the time it was not seen as good. With 3 extra blue sixes, yeah, the deck's consistency gets a lot better.
okay. First off, let me say something about Eugene. And, Eugene, thank you for listening to our channel. Guys, he doesn't listen to our channel, but if you know him, tag him. I actually didn't know who Eugene was. I always heard that he was out there playing Rhinar. He's a Rhinar main. But I've always said that, in Flesh and Blood, we are math driven, right? We've always heard this. It's all about the value of the cards, right? And it took me the course of time to realize something about Rhinar. Rhinar is not math driven in the traditional sense of your traditional Flesh and Blood heroes. He is probabilities and odds, right? I've always mentioned percentages when I come to my Rhinar deck. You have to know what your chances of failing at any given time is in order to know what the best play over the long haul is. That's a very much poker mentality here. That's why he's reckless mathematician. You're dealing with odds and probabilities, chances of missing versus chances of succeeding. Theoretically, there's never a bad time not to roll scabs, right? Because at 16.5% of the time you fail, lose the game, right? At 50% of the time, or let's say a little bit higher than that, like 34% of the time, nothing changes. 50% of the time, you get some positive. So anytime you ask yourself, is this play 50% worth driving me closer to victory or is it going to lose me? And you have to always think about odds and probabilities. Eugene said that at one time with the cast he was on. I can't remember. I think it was the card guys. And I absolutely said I thought I was the only one that thought like that. Well, of course I'm not because I'm not a unique butterfly. Anyways,
Game theory is a long-standing mathematical study. Will
so game theory is based off economics, right?
Yeah.
Comment down below, guys, if you know game theory. I love that stuff. I read books on that stuff. So, all right, this is your traditional aggro runner list. A lot of powerful reds. You have still some
That
yellows.
Bam Bam's still in here.
Bam Bam is a good card because it's optional discard at any time, right? It is very strong, Evan. Very strong, right? Sea legs again. And then this Alpha Instinct, Run Rush Shot is optional. It might be good, it might not be good. It is good uh, as a potential 1 cost, 3 block blue card, but that's your flex spot here. Visit the Boneyard, I am waffling in and out of taking in or out of this deck. There is some potential there to kind of feed your cards what you need on top of your deck. If this is Arsenal to get your Vigor token, you're not running 3 of, right? This is very much a work in progress, right? So, and then inventory, these are not making the cuts. Reckless Swing and Terror Limb from Limb. I'm not a big fan of it, but then this is a very clean version. There is some maybes here. I'm still playing around with it. The Barraging Beatdown for the Visit Boneyards or Run Rough Shots probably better since they're misses anyways, and at least Barraging Beatdown blocks 3. I would even take Blummel and Reckless Swing over Visit the Boneyard. So I'm playing around with different variations of the blue count. But you said it yourself, Evan. The actual Alpha Instinct, even though this is not a beat chest, this raises the average damage value of Rhinar by 3 points, right? Just across the board. But it decreases your misses from like a 33% down to a 26 to 27%, which is still a high miss. But if you play your Rhinar right, where you focus on the main thing of, yeah, you could do big, strong pop off turns, but really with Rhinar, it's blocking, swinging your claws primarily, and focusing on your your arsenal to do those combo turns and biting your turn for that blood rush, then this has a higher pop off and consistently 20 to 30 points of value. The biggest thing is if you don't care if you go first or second, you go first, you're rolling scabs and you're swinging everything you got, right? And then you're trying to rip the cards out the hand and beat them down with as much life as possible because you can use life as a resource at the time. Going second, you have tempo, which you still like. And then what you're doing, you're trying to curtail your failures, so you still get your majority of successes, and that's what you're playing toward at that state. Questions on this?
No, I like this list a lot more than
The
your
beach chest.
first. I do agree. I did see Visit the Boneyard, and I said no.
Okay. So Visit the Boneyard is one of those cards that I think people are
It feels
underrating.
like you're being a coward. You know, you're saying, "Oh, I'm so scared. What's on top of my deck? What? It would sure be great if I could guarantee it was a hit."
So it's really not just for that. It's for getting you some of your power cards back into your deck, right? Which is maybe you play up Dig Up Dinner instead, which is a better card. It's one
I
cost.
would definitely, if you're thinking of fatigue, I would definitely say Dig Up Dinner. In my opinion, is better. Though I think either way, to be completely frank, I think I'd probably want like Barraging Beatdown or some other
Yeah.
like zero cost like Intimidate
Yep. And
instead.
maybe his mighty windup down here. Skullcrack's not a bad card, but the issue is you have a lot of great reds, not a lot of space to fit those in because you need your ratios to be more focused on blue or yellow. And my count right now is 21, 18, 21. Um, so, and again, this is still a work in progress because if you did the count, you're probably not even close to having your full 80. So you can see what I'm working on here based off of actually the Alpha Instinct. It came out playing with different variations. This deck would have been finished by now, but I really, really want to do the due diligence on the beat chest mechanic.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's
and
another thing where I don't like Boneyard. Alpha Instinct doesn't block. A lot of this
yeah,
deck already doesn't block.
yes,
Don't make it block even worse for like a pet card. I think
yeah,
that might cause issues. But the rest of the deck I think looks pretty solid.
yeah,
I'm a
and
fan of it.
yeah, again, Visit the Boneyard is. I think people are sleeping on this card personally. I do not think you need 3 off. First off, I do think it is potentially something you can use here. It's also pretty funny when they try to CNC you or Conqueror. But as Andrew Lorenz famously told me, and I don't know why this shit sticks in my mind, dude. He's like, "Will, you're going for the fancy cool play and not the right play." And Visit the Boneyard is very much the fancy play and not the right play. So
Yeah, I was about to say if I CNC you and you play Visit the Boneyard out of your arsenal,
you don't care.
I'm happy with that. I'm
but
like, "Oh, cool. I got
but
rid of his arsenal, which was completely worthless."
so think about, and honestly, I was even thinking about one remembrance in this deck, and this is the reason why it feeds you back in your Blood Rush Bellow, feeds you in your Beast Within. These are cards that you really do need a lot of. All right, so I'm
I don't
playing
know
around.
about that one.
I get it.
The issue with like feeding back in Blood Rush Bellow is late game Blood Rush Bellow is terrible. Like if you're at 5 life and your opponent is swinging like 7 damage a turn,
Yeah, yeah.
you are never going to Blood Rush Bellow for the rest of the game.
Okay, and let me put it this way, Evan, too, because I think this is where we're different. You're an older school Rhinar player, and you pin him down, but your foundations was when you first started. And when did you pin him down? What hero did he gravitate toward?
Katsu.
Katsu. Okay, so just for our listeners, then what meta he was playing in. so
I don't think you do.
okay, what meta, Evan? Because it had to
It
been a
was
while ago. It had like 2 years ago, man,
it
at
was
least.
it was the Blitz meta before Crucible of War Unlimited came out,
There
so
you go.
nobody had access to the IRA card.
Okay, okay. No, I mean, like tongue in cheek and whatever. I do think that there's the aggro Rhino deck, you're trying to close out your game within 5 turns, right? If you go to 7 to 8 turns, you're losing the game most likely. I'm being tongue in cheek here. It's not really that dire, but you really like. I'll tell you now. I high rolled Ning on this deck, 17 points of value. He was dead in 3 turns, right? Maybe 4 turns, right? I have the recording somewhere, right? And that was even a bad Rhino deck. It didn't have the Alpha Instinct in there.
I think aggro Rhinar is the way to go in the
Yeah,
current meta,
I agree.
just because like if you're trying to controlling Rhinar, I think you lose to Gravy. We're
And
back on
there's
talking about Gravy.
yeah,
Like you're probably also losing to something like Verdance as well. Like I think aggro Rhinar has a chance against both of those
yeah.
decks, which is very valuable.
And
Now, do you have a chance against aggro decks? Probably not, but
this variation, and that's kind of why I like the beat chest, or sorry, why I like the aggro Rhinar. Offense is your defense, regardless if it works or not. Beat chest, you're behind the 8 ball all the time. I got people several, Evan, I'm becoming a better player as time progresses, and I'm playing things seriously. And I'm trying to make the beat chest mechanic work because I really do want to give a fair shot to our listeners who are listening about Armory Deck Review. Ultimately, ask you this: if you're playing that style of deck because you think the hero is cool, buy it. It will do well in your local armies, well enough where you might have some potential, you might get some wins, but if you take it to a higher tier event, you're probably not going to have a good time. Plus, there are so many other decks out there that does what Rhinar beat chess mechanics trying to do better. Do you not agree with that? I
no,
mean,
like Rhinar is not like if somebody's like, I want to play a competitive brute, Rhinar's like the third best brute
yeah,
at
KO
the
first,
moment.
reviled KO second, and
Yep.
then it's a in tough nut people haven't figured out yet. Just going blocking tall and not going blocking wide is always tough for him. Anyways, tough nut. Anyways, yeah, so Rhinar is the third best, but KO is consistent. You're getting what you're getting with KO. You know what you're getting, but this is the intimidate's really strong when it is strong. I think most of the time, if you have a bad matchup, Rhinar is he can swing hard and have brute variants go in your favor. The one thing though is like all decks, that kind of rely on combos or anything else. Beat chest suffers a lot from when people do like destructive on hits, losing your arsenal, things of that sort. Then you're kind of really suffering, and you're hoping to just get 4 damage off a turn with your club. So you're always swinging at least one card four, right, at minimum. Hopefully, Evan.
Unless
Anything
you
else you
play
want?
claws,
Unless you play
which usually
claws.
good.
So if you like to beat chess, look at the Romping Club. If you like claws, sure, look at others and play around with it too. I played the claws in my beat chess deck. Anything else you want to add, Evan, before we close this out?
No, I guess hopefully the Slippy Armory deck is better because this one was a bit disappointing.
It was, and Evan will tell you. So my final verdict is this: you're spending $49.99, the price of an armory deck, for 3 Alpha Instincts. Is it good? Deck's not good. You get every other card for any other brute at $20 with what's in this deck. Is it good for Rhinar? If you want to play Rhinar, you want to join us degenerates down here in the pits of hell, pick up the deck because you're going to need those blue sixes.
Yeah, there's
Secondary,
nothing in the deck that like non Rhinar brutes want. So
yeah, I agree. Or nothing
if
that
you
you
want
can't
to play
get
Rhinar,
cheaper.
yeah, yep.
So, and then I know we said at the end, let's check the price on Alpha Instinct on our fantastic channel, our TCG player. If you're
How much is it?
$5, what the actual fuck,
So
dude?
unequivocally, don't buy this product and just buy singles.
Oh my god, why would they do this? I mean, now mind you, you have to pay the shipping, so it's, I mean, God, it's $16 for 3. I might pick this up. There's not a lot of them on sale, dude. Just to have the extra cards. My God. All right.
We broke Will.
So if you're going to shop on TCG Player, go to Siblings and Cardboard. They have an affiliate link down below. Click on that. Just give them the cash. Better it's free for you guys. Check out Fabbazaar. Rob does a good job. He's also another degenerate likes to play Rhinar and other bad heroes like Teklo. And Rhinar's not a bad hero, but Beat Chest is. That's our final verdict. We agree?
I can agree with that.
Okay. Before I roll off, I'm not sure if we covered it, but that Bear Destruction, where it's +2 to the next brute attack action, did we cover that it was supposed to be +2 to.
Yep. Yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned that earlier,
Okay.
which would have been way better.
It would have been so much better. Anyways, it pissed me off. For our listeners, hopefully we weren't too down on this. We like to keep things positive, or at least funny, if we're going to be down on it. I think that's all we have to say. You can find me on Discord as midnight_WI11, Facebook as midwe, and then always keep in mind, every turn is a decision, every decision is a story, and don't forget your damn Tunic counter. Unless you're a brute and you want to rip it off. Anyways,